Okay. Please tell me your name, core year region, and current role region.
Okay, so I am Shannon Wenck, and I was a 2008 RGV core member in Brownsville, Texas. I taught high school social studies, and I'm currently, this is my third year as an MTLD in the Mississippi Delta, and I specialize in humanities, social studies, English, and foreign language.
And Shannon, why did you want to become an MTLD?
So I think primarily when I think about why I became, at the time it was called a program director, but I wanted to become an MTLD because I was changed by my experience in education just as a teacher, and I wanted to continue on in the movement for educational equity, but I realized that I wanted to be developed in a new way. So I realized that I wanted to work on vision setting, design, and management. So that was one piece of it. Also, I worked really closely with my own MTLD in my second year on different projects, and so I got to see firsthand what the role was. And I really felt like it actually was a way to stay in the classroom in a sense, because I'm in classrooms every single day.
And why is being an MTLD in a rural region a unique experience?
So I transferred from the RGV to the Mississippi Delta, realizing that they're both considered rural placements. But I do think that the Mississippi Delta is a bit more rural. And in the rural setting, I feel like we have the potential for such a unique impact. So for example, our MTLDs serve over 500 teachers, and we're in over 50 communities. And so I work primarily with 5 communities. And while I taught at a high school with 4,000 students, I actually work with teachers that teach at high schools with 200 students in communities of 2,000 people. So that means there are many opportunities to get to know the students and also community members. I've had that very unique opportunity to volunteer and teach Spanish in a community in Shelby, Mississippi. So I was really excited to further get to know and partner with some of the community members there. I also think that in the Delta, because of the isolation, oftentimes there's an exposure gap with our students. And so in a rural setting, we have the ability to have this sort of reciprocal education, in that I'm learning a lot about the culture and the communities in the Delta, as well as we're teaching students and also core members more about the cultures in Mississippi. And so I think that is a privilege in a lot of ways. And also, as you can see, I work from a home office, so that you can probably hear our dog in the background. So that's something that's very unique in the rural setting. Also, we're very spread out, and so we have 4 different offices, but I work primarily from home.
And how did you end up in the Delta, Shannon?
So I was fortunate enough to hear about the 2009 expansion. Many of you that are familiar with Mississippi realize that we blossomed, as I like to call it, in 2009 from about 80 core members a year to over 300 a year. And once I heard about that, I realized that there would be this unique opportunity to have that additional impact in a rural setting that was trying to expand and get more and more MTLDs there, as well as teachers. I visited the Delta and realized that there was a rich history that really, in many ways, I felt angered by, because I realized that there was this deep-seated segregation, generational poverty that angered me, but there was also this sense of hope and camaraderie and a collective mobility with not only Teach for America, but also with many of the other organizations that we partner with in Mississippi.
Tell us a little bit about the culture on the Delta team and what you like most about being part of this region.
So I think first I'll talk about our team, but then I want to talk a little bit about the history of the Delta. So our team is very much like a family. I felt welcome from day one. We really do thrive off of getting to know each other as people. We just finished having our retreat where we got to know each other in different realms of our life, in different stages of our life, and talk more about that and share our stories of self. But I also think that just even the other MTLDs that I live with and work with, we have a deeper sense of like not only who we are, but our passion about our work, and we get to talk about that passion frequently. So that's one thing that I love about my team. I also think just the Delta and the culture in general, when I think about the civil rights movement and also just the history of the blues that you see all over as you're driving through the Delta. I am kind of a history nerd, so I love seeing those things, but also there's something really awesome about the fact that 4 of my teachers teach the grandsons of Fannie Lou Hamer in Ruleville, Mississippi, and just thinking about that connected history, both the great parts about that history and also some of the perpetuation of the civil rights movement to this day, it makes me want to stay and continue this work here.
What does an average day look like as an MTLD and an average week and month?
So I wish I could just show you a screenshot of my calendar, because I would be able to explain it to you maybe in PowerPoint form. But to try to describe this for you, I think most importantly, it's important to note that as an MTLD, your workload varies depending on the month, the time of the month, and also what might be happening with a school district calendar. So typically, I schedule observations from Monday through Thursday, and so that I can see my teachers during their school day. And then I choose who I observe I have 27 teachers this year, and I choose who I observe based on my 9-week plan that I create and the student outcomes that I prioritize. And so that means that I want to make sure that I'm aligning the outcomes and the changes that I want to see with not only this 9-week plan that I've created and I'm backwards planning from, but also my overarching vision for my role, for my core members and their students. And so yes, we have visions too as MTLDs, not shockingly. I also have to take into account in my weekly scheduling the geography. Since I am in a rural area, I am in 5 different communities, and so it's important for me to observe throughout the week in these different communities. And so I try to balance my time when I do that, and I generally will observe 3 to 4 teachers in a given day, and I do not want to have more than 3 meetings in one given night, because I will be overworked and not actually get a plan very much for those meetings. As my manager knows, that is something that is was very challenging for me in my first year. It's easy to forget that we're not just executing and observing, we're actually planning and reflecting constantly on student outcomes in a given day. And so a typical day might mean I observe these teachers and then maybe meet with a principal briefly to talk more about my vision for the development of those teachers, plan for the meetings, have some follow-up email time, and then have my meetings with my teachers, which might be a one-on-one meeting or a group setting meeting for my English teachers or for different problem-solving groups that I might prioritize based on the needs of my teachers. And Fridays I do hold sacred as my planning day and reflection day, and I also will send out a weekly newsletter. And just to let you know some other things that do arise, for example, in the Mississippi Delta region, we have professional Saturdays once a month. So this week I'm working on planning a course for first-year English teachers, and that I will be facilitating on Saturday. So that's some of my time is spent there in that planning design mode. And then also an additional part of my role that I really love and seems to always take center stage in October is selection. So I'm a final evaluator in Ann Arbor in the upcoming weeks. So part of my time needs to also be spent planning for my departure for selection and how I will make sure I'm following up with my core members, checking in on some of their next steps and managing that realm of execution.
What advice do you have for anyone applying to be an MTLD?
So the best thing I think I did was actually shadow my MTLD for a day to really try to better understand what life was like in his shoes. Because when I first met, his name is John, and when I first met him I thought, wow, his job looks so fun, he gets to interact with kids and just observe us all day. I didn't realize there are many different parts of this role, very significant parts. And so I think that's something that I would encourage is for you to discuss with another MTLD about the role, both the challenges and also the joys of the role. I also would want you to consider why you want to be an MTLD and what makes you passionate about the role. I think it's really important to consider like what your vision for this role might be and how that changes over time.
All right, I'm going to throw 2 questions at you that aren't on the thing.
Go for it.
What is your favorite thing about being an MTLD?
My absolute favorite, okay, I have 2 favorite things. Number 1 is I get to engage with a lot of different students and meet a lot of different students, and I have so much fun. I like to talk to students when I'm in the classroom, and I also like to see the changes that my teachers implement and how that affects their students in a really positive way and have those conversations. The second thing is that I have some best friends at work, and so it makes this job so much fun every day because I get to bounce ideas off of them, and I feel like my brain has grown a lot as a result of this job or this profession, I should say, and the critical thinking I've had to do and gotten the opportunity to do with my team.
And the other question is, you mentioned that you wanted to get some development, and that's part of why you took the role. Mm-hmm. So I'd love for you to talk a little bit about the things that helped you develop as an MTLD.
Yeah, so I can specifically name a few things within my first year, especially as a first year MTLD. We had a lot of various trainings that we went through just on like how to problem solve. But I really think what was most important was for me to realize that I needed to own my development. And so when I had questions or when something didn't make sense, I built a relationship with my manager so that she could further help me and push me to critically think about some of these problems as they arose and problem solve around them. I also think that it was really valuable for me in my second year as an MTLD and now in my third year to consider how I wanted to innovate and what that could look like. So for example, I was really challenged in my second year. I worked with a national ELA pilot to better understand my vision for my role and push my thinking in terms of ELA design. And I think it's really important as an MTLD, just like with core members, we say we want them to own their development, but also for MTLDs to take advantage of these multiple myriad opportunities that you have to be developed by a variety of people in our organization, whether it be your manager, colleagues, or even national teams as well.
And anything else you would like to share with the prospects?
I'm really excited that you are all thinking of applying, and I would love to talk to you more about it, but I also just hope that you really get to talk to other MTLDs who can also share their experience.
The end.
Thank you. And she can